gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Collins, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Director, I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate by the time we get to this, there is sometimes rhetorical questions that seem to pop their heads up. And I think in this question, though, my friend from South Carolina brings a very good point. There are things that people out in the world look at and they see, and they're honest, hardworking folks, and they look at these things and they say, this doesn't make sense. And I think it just attributes to the disconnect that many times happens with the folks who get up and go to work every morning and they look on their TV and they see what's happening up here and they say it just doesn't pass the smell test. And I think that's some of the things we're concerned about. But I want to go in a different direction. We've covered the gamut. Our country wants to be safe. The people of the 9th District, they want to know that their government is watching out for them. They want to know that there is sharing, legal sharing, and not overreach, but legal work that is this hard work between police and law enforcement agencies and the Justice Department. My father was a state trooper for 31 years in Georgia. I get it. But there needs to be a balance in there. So there's a program called the Joint Regional Intelligence Group. And I want to switch gears here. The Director of National Intelligence issued a directive establishing the Joint Regional Intelligence Group pilot program. The purpose of this program will be to coordinate information sharing between foreign and domestic intelligence communities. We have been hearing from state and local law enforcement that the FBI has largely taken control of standing up the pilot program and that they have been excluded. Is that the case, or is that your understanding of what's going on right now?
And who would be excluded?
The local, state and locals feel like they're being excluded.
This issue I think we've addressed in terms of the regional intelligence centers. I know there was some concern at some point that this is some new vehicle. We have, I think, explained sufficiently to state and local law enforcement that this is not anything new. It's a greater integration of the intelligence capacity around the country.
So you're saying this is an existing program, and what the Director of National Intelligence is saying is not new?
Well, I'm not certain exactly which program the Director of National Intelligence is talking about. I thought you said regional...
The Joint Regional Intelligence Group.
Joint Regional Intelligence, yes. And it certainly includes state and local law enforcement, and there are various parts of that particular undertaking, and you have to differentiate between the various parts of that undertaking. For instance, part of it is the role of our special agents in charge as being in the various divisions or districts as being in charge and being the person who is in charge for intelligence collection or coordination, I should say, under the ODNI.
Okay. Now, so, and again, the understanding here, tell me a little bit more about this program. Maybe we're talking about the same program, maybe we're not. And I think that's because this seemed to be more of a pilot program, which would mean that it was either integrating stuff that was already there or starting something from new that may have been and if that is, where is this being located out of?
I guess I am confused in terms of specifically what programs you're talking about under the ODNI. I'd be happy to get back to you specifically on this as I can read it and assimilate it.
All right. In light of that, and I know and we'll move on, and I appreciate you getting back to me about that and those questions. A lot has been said about the Electronic Communications Privacy Act. We've sort of danced around a little bit of that. As you're sort of in your last little bit here, I want to sort of open this up and say, is it out of date? Is it something that, is there better, would it be helpful for law enforcement to have a clear standard of collection? And if so, what do you believe that would be?
Well, yes, I do think it is outdated. It does need review. As I stated before, I would caution against raising standards for obtaining basic non-Fourth Amendment information. Because you eliminate much of the data that provides predication for further investigation. And so as one looks at it, I would look at it to be updated, but also I have some concern about raising standards which would impact on our ability to conduct cases, and whether it be terrorism or otherwise.
Well, as I have a law professor who's basically lamented many times on the demise that there was even a Fourth Amendment even existing today in the light of a lot of things and cases that have been going on. Is there a way, though, that we balance this in a new age of environment in which it seems to be metadata, we call it these things where it's collection, but we're collecting on such large scales in this electronic life? Do you think we've got a pretty hard line to focus here in which we're protecting civil liberties of our individual, yet giving access where need be, where I think people would understand there'd be a reason to investigate?
I do think that given the new technology, the ability to communicate in any number of ways, that the statute needs to be upgraded. The concern comes, you can identify terrorists by looking at substantial accumulations of non-Fourth Amendment protected data. In the case of a terrorist who wants to undertake an attack to kill Americans, it may well be worth that balance. On the other hand, what you want to protect against is abuse of that collection of data.
Well, and that hits, and the concern I've had, and our time is done, but the quick, depending on many-year-old court decisions on what is, quote, metadata and what is protected for, I'm concerned that we're in a situation now to where some of the older of things that didn't understand this kind of technology may be balanced in a way that we're going to have to look at it differently, instead of saying, well, it's always been okay under these circumstances and now try to apply it. Now, I think we may be trying apples and oranges, and I think people are concerned about that. Thank you, though, for your service. Thank you for being here to answer the questions.